What myth is still widely circulated as truth? That you can reduce fat from a particular body part. Then why do I have a goddamn needle dick? It's obviously because I work it out so much. He may have a needle dick but he fucks like a sewing machine. Holding B+ down increases your chances of catching a Pokemon. Basically any schoolyard Pokemon room. I wasted so many hours scouring the Seafoam Cavern looking for that stupid mist stone. If you beat the Elite Four 13 times in a row without doing anything else in between, a secret door will open up. I was adamantly told by some seniors at work not to drink the water that boiled twice because it cooks the oxygen out of it. What is with seniors and water that's been boiled twice? My grandmother used to say that it would make the water radioactive. I still can't wrap my head around the fact that a woman that had been a chemist her entire working life believed this. Though I've heard others who grew up in the Soviet Union, like my grandmother, echo this, so perhaps it's some silly propaganda that stuck. I would love it if it turned out that it started as propaganda to reduce power consumption by the populace. That Marilyn Manson removed 2 of his ribs to blow himself. So you're telling me I didn't have to remove 2 of my ribs to be able to blow Marilyn Manson? You didn't have to, but I appreciate you going the extra mile. That whole you eat 7 spiders a year myth. It was created by some lady in the late 90s or early 2000s to prove that ridiculous things can be found on the internet, spread like wildfire, and believed by many. Edit, wow, this blew up. Thank you to all who clarified that it was Lisa Holt, a troll. Edit 2, maybe? And the fact that this is older than the internet. Myths are weird. It's actually 7 in a lifetime. If you're on your deathbed and have only swallowed 1, the other 6 will swarm your mouth at once. Press lips together. Keep the 7th spider out. I am immortal. Catherine the Great died after attempting to have sex with a horse. This myth was started by the French. And then they ask why everyone believes Napoleon was a tiny, tiny man. Napoleon being small was a myth started by the British. Scientists don't know how bees fly. According to all known laws of aviation. You, with the physics, get out of here. It's a mystery. Daddy longlegs are actually the most poisonous spiders in the world but don't have long enough fangs to bite you. For those who doubt, https://n.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/falsity. Holy shit, I didn't know Daddy Longlegs fucking ate other spiders, black widows nonetheless, and here I thought those guys just chilled in their web and are fruit flies and shit. If an HIV positive person has sex with another HIV positive person, they don't have to worry about protection. They do. Because there are 140 different strains of the HIV/AIDS virus, and getting infected with another strain, especially a potentially deadlier one, could be dangerous. Also, pregnancy is still a very big risk for HIV-positive women. If you are considering a sexual relationship, get tested, and talk to your doctor about birth control. Oh shit, you can get double or triple AIDS. People in general know the world was flat until Columbus sailed the ocean blue. No, the ancient world figured that out a long time before. People just thought that it wasn't possible to sail across the ocean to Asia because sailors would run out of food by then, while Columbus thought that wasn't case because he thought Asia was bigger than contemporary estimates. He actually thought the diameter of Earth was much smaller than contemporary estimates, too. He was very wrong. The standard estimates were accurate, but he got lucky. Not even contemporary estimates. Eratosthenes had done a pretty good estimate in the 3rd century BCE. The myth: you can tell if a snake is venomous or not by the shape of its pupil, slit for venomous, round for non-venomous. The truth: pupil shape has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not a snake has venom, and, if you're close enough to get a good look at a snake's pupils, you're probably close enough to get bit. The advice: if you cannot, from a safe distance, immediately identify a snake beyond a reasonable doubt, assume it's dangerous and behave accordingly, keep your distance, stay out of its direct path, and keep your eyes on it until one or the other of you leaves the area. That historical armor was useless, or just something you wore so you had a slight chance to turn a death blow into merely a serious injury. Shows and movies still perpetuate this. Game of Thrones has acclaimed sword fights where guys casually shove swords through dudes in plate armor. Impossible. Metal is not cardboard. Even the most basic iron or bronze chainmail armor will be barely scratched by a slash from the sharpest katana. Well-made plate armor is impervious to all damage, short of a blow from a specialized armor-piercing weapon, lance, poleaxe etc. Even the earliest guns couldn't penetrate plate armor. Armor was incredibly expensive. Common people couldn't afford it, so made do without or, if lucky, with fabric armors that were still very effective protection. A suit of custom-made plate would have cost a knight the equivalent of a modern high-end luxury car. Why would people pay that much for something useless? Armor was very useful. That's why weapons continued to advance over the centuries and why armor did as well. It was an arms race. Bonus, the Dark Ages being a time of post-Roman decline is a myth. We weren't set back 1,000 years by the fall of Rome. Technology continued to advance throughout the following centuries. Some things quite astonishingly so. Debated. It was called the Dark Ages because the electric bill was in the Roman Empire's name, and when it collapsed the power got cut off. It took several hundred years to scrape up the money for the past due bill plus the reconnection fee. Also adding to the delay was the fact that people worked from dawn to dusk and there was no one to sit around all day waiting for the dude to come flip the switch. Something about touching baby birds and their parents abandoning them due to the smell of human touch. Edit, after reading through several replies, perhaps there is some truth to this based on the animal. One time my son came home smelling like a bird and I told him to get the hell out and never come back. Nobody wants a chicken fucker for a son. Gum takes 7 years to digest. No, that's if you eat people. People take 7 years to digest. No, gum takes 7 people to digest. Knuckle cracking doesn't lead to arthritis, it's just an old wives' tale people use in place of simply telling you it's annoying them. Crack away. Another one is that it's illegal to drive with the interior light on. It's not. It's just harder to see at night with it on, so drivers don't like it on when driving. Edit, I think many who have replied are right. It probably is illegal in certain circumstances or jurisdictions. All this time I could have been playing my Game Boy. Organic crops don't use pesticides or herbicides. Can you expand upon this? Curse Jessig https://youtube.b/8pmm6sun7s. This video is really good. Edit, wow, thank you for all the awards everyone, I was not expecting this. That you can tell if someone is a virgin by looking at their hymen to see if it is intact. I recently remembered that in middle school and high school, we believed that you could tell someone wasn't a virgin if they had a thigh gap, woman face palming. What was the logic? The food pyramid. Edit, wow, thanks for the awards. My first gold smile. Edit too, so many good comments. To answer and respond to many of them, check out the book Death by Food Pyramid. Sounds extreme, but the author has an entire chapter on how to better research and understand scientific documents/reports. One of the best things I have read. So much bread, smiley face. Everybody knows about big tobacco and big pharma, but what about big gluten using scams like this to line their pockets? That Mr. Rogers was a sniper and or had tattoos covering his arms. Both untrue. Fred Rogers lived a pretty mundane life and dedicated considerable time to creating television programming that didn't rot kids' brains. Dr. Ruth, on the other hand. https://wiki/ruth_westheimer#Wiki/Ruth_and/_education https://n.wikipediawiki/wiki/ruth_westheimer#Shirley_life_and_education. That shaving makes your beard grow better. When I was a teenager, a lot of people told me that shaving would make my beard grow faster. Well, I didn't want to shave any more than I absolutely had to, so I often went weeks at a time without shaving. It wasn't the best look for me. The idea was that a teenager who'd keep patchy growth on would really want good facial hair, so the whole shave it to make it more prominent was just a clever way for adults to convince teenagers to keep that dirt stash off, that people in the Middle Ages only lived to 40 or something. There was a lot of child dead, thus lowering the average age. Living till 60-70 years old wasn't strange. It was definitely more common to die early because of lack of medical care. But yeah, it's not like people dropped of old age at 40 or 50. That the US spent over $1 million in 2 years to develop a pen that could work in space, whereas the Soviets decided to just use a pencil. In the early days, both used pencils, but since pencils are made out of graphite, and graphite is conductive, snapped graphite particles are dangerous in a pressurized space capsule, to put it lightly. Fisher, the owner of the pen company, spent his own money to develop a pressurized ballpoint pen. And cost only about $3 per pen. Edit, I was wrong on the price, the pens first cost about $6 per pen for NASA. Edit 2, did some digging on the grease pens. Apparently the thought was that they wouldn't be durable enough on paper, and the paper shroud of the grease pen would still need to be disposed of, and thought it might be a problem. My understanding is that the pencils were grease pencils. Different, safer, than regular pencils, but still somewhat dangerous and annoying to use. That the tongue has different regions for salty, sweet, bitter and sour. Why were we ever taught that? Damn you, Ms. Frizzle. Undercover police have to tell you they are policemen when you ask them. Breaking Bad has a great scene where an undercover cop tricks a guy into selling him drugs using this myth. I thought we were going to hang out. Poor Badger. Your blood is blue when not oxygenated. Edit, thank you all for my first awards. I never thought such a simple answer could have such an impact. Smile. Phlebotomist here, blood is 2 shades of red. Dark red for venous blood and bright red for arterial blood, due to the arterial blood being oxygenated. Veins look blue through the skin due to how light penetrates the skin. You generally won't see arteries through the skin as they are deeper to keep us alive. They are under more pressure due to being pumped by the heart to provide oxygen-rich blood to the body. If you cut one, femoral, brachial, carotid, you can bleed to death in minutes. That's why our bodies keep them protected. In all my years doing this job I have only seen one variation of color, and that was orange blood due to an active hepatitis C infection. Serum on the other hand can be green, milky or fluoro yellow. Edit, thank you beautiful people for the questions and the lovely gesture of the Reddit awards. I'm happy to answer any more questions or offer advice on how to handle the anxiety of needle phobia and vasovagal response to blood collections. If I could ask anything of you, it would be, please donate blood and be kind to one another. Bulls hate red. They are actually colorblind and are reacting to the movement of the cloth and the asshole behind it. You also gotta keep in mind those bulls are poorly treated and usually given some kind of stimulants. Bulls on our ranch are actually quite friendly as long as it's not breeding season. Can confirm. I once had a bull knock me over and stand above me because he wanted chest scratches. He was a big baby that wanted what he wanted, when he wanted it. Edit, did not expect this to blow up. I am at work and can't do detailed responses or additional stories at this time. Sorry. See below for the tale of Blue, my guard goat. Lemmings commit mass suicide, perhaps the most influential and, for the lemmings involved, tragic presentation of the myth was the 1958 Disney film, White Wilderness. https://n.wikipedia.org/wiki/white_wilderness_film, which won an Academy Award for documentary feature. https://n.wikipedia.org/wiki/academy_award_best_documentary_feature, and in which producers threw lemmings off a cliff to their deaths to fake footage of a mass suicide, as well as faked scenes of mass migration. 15 https://n.wikipedia.org/wiki/lemming #site_notes 15. Human are really bad at committing confirmation bias. Lemmings aren't running off of cliffs by themselves. Hold them off rather than reconsider that detail. People believe in the whole alpha and beta wolves thing. It's not true. The leaders of the pack are the parents. In natural wolf packs, the alpha male or female are merely the breeding animals, the parents of the pack, and dominance contests with other wolves are rare, if they exist at all. Yup. The guy who pioneered this theory spent the rest of his life, or is spending the rest of his life, trying to debunk this. He's a biologist. L. David Mech. His PhD thesis in the 1960s studied captive wolves and was the best science of its time. There is a lot of science from the 1960s that is outdated 60 years later. In 1999, Mech published Alpha Status, Dominance, and Division of Labor in Wolf Packs https://digitalcommons.unl.edu/cgi/view-content.cgi. Article equals 1343 and context equals use XNP, which studied wild wolves and represented the science of the 1990s, which is a lot better than the science of the 1960s. He wrote in 1999, greater than the concept of the alpha wolf as a top dog ruling a group of similar-aged compatriots is particularly misleading. Mech is still alive, and that people still push the idea of the alpha wolf and that his original book containing that theory is still published, continues to piss him off. https://davemeech.org/wolf-news-and-information/. He is a great example of science and scientists doing a great job. He did research, it was the best for the time, and published it. Then he did more research, learned new stuff that contradicted the old stuff and changed his views based on the new information. This is how science and research is supposed to work. Nobody, reasonable, is criticizing him for holding the old views when he held them, or for doing the initial research. The captivity studies were a necessary part of the process. A lot of people still believe a woman sued McDonald's because her coffee was hot. In reality, the woman had third-degree burns throughout her pelvic area and only asked that her medical bills be paid. It was like only $30,000 or something, and McDonald's went nope, here is like $200 bucks. So she sued. They were selling illegally hot coffee without a proper warning. Then, McDonald's spread this lie to keep their good name. Also, the lids on the cups did not seal securely. There already had been a number of burns reported as a result of the lids popping off and spilling boiling hot coffee on people. This point figured prominently in the civil trial against McDonald's. That we only use 10% of our brain edit, thanks for the awards, all my first, and the upvotes. Subtract 10 from how many I have and that's the most I've ever gotten on a comment, smiley face. My cousin had a roommate who thought this and tried to use 100% of his brain to run through a wall. Guess some people do use 10% of their brain.